Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you for being here today. My name is Anna McIntyre. I am the Managing Director of the Janet Quinney Lawson Institute for Land, Water, and Air here at Utah State University. We have a great turnout today. Thank you for being here. This audience includes people who are here at Utah State University who care about Bear Lake, and then people who are members of the community or nonprofits or government agencies who also care about Bear Lake. We're grateful to have all of you here. I'd like to give several special recognitions. There's many of you here who I should recognize. We have Senator Wilson in the back. Thank you for being here. He kind of got this whole thing started, and so we're happy for him to hear how this thing has come to fruition. We also have members of Bear Lake Watch. We have, who else am I seeing here? Members of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. Many of our partners who are excited to have as a part of this. The video that we showed just to start was what we shared with our audience a week ago yesterday at our report release event for the report to the governor and legislature on Utah's land, water, and air. I like that video because coming out of the governor's mouth was essentially what the mission of the Institute is. And which is to guide Utah land, water, and air policy by connecting policymakers with high quality research. And this Bear Lake program is one of the best ways that we're going to be able to do that. I'm excited to talk about it. I'd like to take like 3 really quick tangents, just really quick. I do want to talk just a little bit about our report to the governor and legislature, which just came out. There are copies at the back if you want to see. But we worked with 40 of our USU researchers, some of them who are here, to share 25 to 30 different hot takes on really important research when it comes to Utah's land, water, and air. And so this is what we were doing a week ago down in Salt Lake, sharing these results and having a panel of our researchers talk about these things. We worked for a really long time on this project, and so we have a pretty extensive book with 5 chapters on land, water, air, and then 2 special topics on Colorado River and energy. And so we really have appreciated the work that went into putting this together, and it took a ton of time. But when people that have talked to me in the last 6 months, I've been really excited about the report, but people who know me know that I've been really excited about the Bear Lake Research Program. It's something that I've been trying to figure out since we knew about it, how to articulate what it was about this that made me so excited. Aside from the fact that I, like most of you in this room, love Bear Lake, there's something about it that from an institute perspective made me extremely excited. And so I've been trying to figure out what is it about that. My background before the Institute was in research communications, so I've managed a number of interdisciplinary research programs that we have at the university, including research on Capitol Hill, where our undergraduates share their research with legislators. Back in the day, we did the TEDx USU program, where we had researchers audition to share talks about their research and their stories, and we did a student version called Ignite. And I did a lot of things with research communications, including the website and social media and editing the RFAST training and all of those things. But these were the projects that made me really excited and made me feel like my job had meaning. And this is one of those things that makes me feel like my job has meaning. And I think the reason for that is that research is it's important, it's rational, but when it's at its best, it's also relational, and it's the way that we connect and share what we know with each other in a way that makes it really exciting. And there's nothing more land grantee than working together from an interdisciplinary perspective to solve a Utah problem from a lot of different perspectives at the same time. And so this is something that I've been really excited to see crystallize and happen, and to be able to be here to kick this off is super exciting. I took this picture after one of our initial meetings up in Garden City. This was actually in May, and it was at the it's the visitor center at the summit, looking down onto Bear Lake. I'm sure most of you have been there. And back in May, the snow was still like multiple feet deep, and I was in like my work clothes and some slip-on shoes. And I actually took this picture. I was in bare feet because I didn't want to get my shoes all soaked for the drive home. But it was just one of those days when we started to see some of the pieces come together that when I started to see what the potential of that could be, and I feel like this is one of those days again. It's just been such a delight to see how this research program is coming together and what we can expect to see in the next several months. Okay, so for those of you who aren't familiar, this is what the grant program is. So thanks to Senator Wilson and Director Steed and our friends at Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, we received funding to do a Bear Lake needs assessment. And that has three component parts, one of which the Institute is going to be working on a needs assessment of the comprehensive management plan that was developed by Forestry, Fire, and State Lands that really talks about a number of issues when it comes to management of Bear Lake. But the second program, I think the reason that most of us are here today, is our research grant program, where we've made funds available to faculty and graduate students and undergraduates to address any number of issues that were outlined as things that we need to know about Bear Lake. And then the third is an outreach and communication program. This is part of that, but it's just the beginning of what we're going to do to make sure that we have this relationality, this chance to connect and share what it is that we're doing as a community and as a cohort of Bear Lake problem solvers. I do want to recognize some of our early birds. We have a number of external partners that we call early birds, and we're going to talk to some of them in the second part of this program. But internally, even before we came out with the grant program, we had a number of groups on campus who did a fantastic job of saying, how can we be involved and want to be a part of this? That includes landscape architecture and environmental planning. Their entire department is engaging on Bear Lake this year. Right now, their graduate student class, led by Todd Johnson, is starting to crystallize some ideas on a very holistic view of what are challenges with Bear Lake. And then their entire department in January is going to do their charrette process, where every graduate student, undergraduate, and faculty member is going to spend an entire week starting to put together teams to address some of these issues, and then their senior capstone courses are going to complete and finish out those projects by the end of the academic year. In English, we've had Wes Mathis and his advisor, Jared Colton, who for a number of months now have been working on work understanding the communication surrounding the comprehensive management plan. Our journalism and communications department, led by Chris Garf, his corporate video class, has been working on making some public service announcements for Bear Lake. Watershed Sciences has long been kind of the grandparents of Bear Lake research here at Utah State, and they're continuing to be so highly involved in the work that we're doing here. Specifically, we've been working with Erin Rivers and her preparation for the spring runoff conference here at Utah State, and she was one of the first to say we're going to be able to be involved with that and help with the outreach for that. We've additionally been working with Kane College for the Arts and the Nora Eccles Harrison Museum of Art, who also want to find functional ways to be engaged. And just this initial list, and we're going to continue to build on that list today, makes me excited, because there's not a lot of opportunities to get that many different disciplines and colleges together to work on a single project. So we announced this grant program back in July. I spent a lot of time losing sleep in September, wondering if this was going to be successful, if people were going to submit some proposals, and we shared these research focus areas that were identified by Forestry, Fire, and State Lands in the Comprehensive Management Plan. And when October 2nd came around, as is the case, and we knew this was going to be the case, all of them came in on October 2nd. We got a really, really fantastic group of proposals. We wish we could have funded every single one of them, but we're excited to share those that we were able to fund. I know everyone wants the numbers. We received 21 proposals. We were able to award 11 grants. Those 11 grants are going to faculty and students in 7 colleges and 11 departments. We're awarding 2 faculty grants, 5 graduate student grants, and 4 class cohort grants. So it's a pretty exceptional diversity. We sent out notifications to those who received the grants, and we could have left it at that for a number of reasons, part of which is the relationality, but we want you all to know each other. By the end of this, we want you all to be friends and colleagues and have your paths cross a lot. And so it's important to me to be able to call out and recognize everyone who's received a grant so that you know each other and that you can find different ways to coordinate and work together. There's a few of these grants where that's going to be a very, very big part of that, and we'll explain that as we go through. So I'm just going to go ahead and announce and recognize the grants. I was supposed to spend the half hour before this event like reviewing the grant proposals so I could effectively articulate what they all are, but then we had AV troubles, and so I'm going a little bit off of memory, and you can shout out and correct me as I'm going through them, that's fine. We've had like a lot of busy weeks in the Institute getting ready for a number of projects. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but being able to see these grants and what they're going to be, these projects are amazing. I'm so excited. And so I'm excited to share them with you. Okay, first one, Burdette Barker, Reagan Briggs, Sina Bildem, and Matt Yost. They are submitting a grant or working on a project at this point on irrigation performance connection to water quality in Big Creek. And so there's a big push right now in the state to shift irrigation practices from flood to sprinkler, and they're going to be testing the differences in water quality and runoff that would go into Bear Lake from those changes in irrigation practices. And so we're excited for that. I see Burdette. Raise your hand when I call you if you were there. Is it just you, Burdette?
I think it's just me.
Okay, congratulations. I don't know if this is a clapping thing or not, but congratulations. Okay. Next grant is Brennan Bean, Kevin Moon, Wei Zhang, Ben Shaw, and Scout Jarman from Math and Stats and Plant Soils and Climate. Their work is the development of machine learning and/or deep learning models to explore climate scenarios for Bear Lake. And so they are working with computational things so that they can make decadal climate forecasts much faster than they might otherwise be able to do. Is that good enough? All right. Okay, Brennan and let's see. Way to go. Glad to have you here. Thank you. Okay, Elizabeth Brunner, Jessica Schad, Stacia Ryder. Glad to have you here today. They're right over there. We had opened up this new category for a class cohort grant, and they said, "We'll do you one better. How about 4?" And so they are going to be doing this combined project across 3 graduate student classes and 1 undergrad class, which includes archival research and interview studies and some other wonderful things to understand people's attitudes on their environmental concerns related to recreation and growth and climate change in the area. So that was one that our committee was extremely excited about, and the number of students that we are going to have involved in that and understanding the issues surrounding Bear Lake is really exciting. Lawrence Culver, I didn't see him here. He's been one of our land, water, and air friends for quite some time. He has such good perspectives on the history of environment in the state. He is doing a cultural and historical resources of Bear Lake, a bibliography and digital collection from USU Specialist Collections. We actually had a few submit grants related to special collections. It was one that I pointed out that we really wanted to have. He's going to be working with one of his classes to help identify, digitize, and combine a number of the photographic and government records and other documents down in special collections so that they're appropriately tagged and sorted. They can be used as resources for other research projects or for forestry, fire, and state lands for those who would want to use them. Mario Harper, I saw in here. There you are. Hello. The committee, when they were reviewing this, I think the adjective that was describing this was super cool. Autonomous submarine sensing for shoreline and infrastructure analysis in the Bear Lake region. The way we understand it, he's going to take a sub to Bear Lake. So we're really excited about that. Okay, Marilla Ortiz, Eric Westra, Corey Ransom, and Olan Waju Adeyemi. Are they here? Their work is incredibly important for Bear Lake. Eurasian water milfoil is an invasive species, incredibly difficult to eradicate. Marilla, from what I understand, Rowdy told me that she's been doing plenty of work on Bear Lake up to this point. He's quite familiar with her work, and she'll be able to do more of that and expand on the projects that she has going on in Bear Lake. Okay, this one's an exciting one. Jared Ragland. He is a photographer in art and design. What he is going to do is he is going to be photographing you in Bear Lake and create visual assets for us to communicate the value of the research that we're doing and for our stakeholders to be able to also communicate the value of Bear Lake to our constituencies and other people who matter. You are all going to get to know Jared. It's going to be fantastic. Jared has a lot of professional experience, I believe, with National Geographic and the White House. So that's a pretty exciting way to create more of that relationality and communication on what we do. Yes, Jared.
And I have wonderful BFA photo students who will be joining me in making the photographs as well.
Thank you, thank you. Welcome. You can say your names. I don't have your names up here. We're glad to have you here. This was one we were really excited on. This is not one that normally fits what we think of as research, but creative activity matters as much, and I think it has an equal amount of power when it comes to understanding the outreach component of what we're doing in this project. Yiming Su, Chia Li, and Junjie Tang. Hello, I don't know if I saw it. I tried. Detection and quantification of nanoparticle contamination in Bear Lake. From my understanding, this is something that we don't know a whole lot about, and so his team is going to determine what type of metal-based and plastic-based nanoparticles are in Bear Lake, where they are, and how does human activity and seasons affect that. So we're excited for that one as well. Timothy Walsworth and Phaedra Booty, I didn't see her come in. Jim DeRito with Trout Unlimited and Tyler Coleman, a graduate student researcher, are working on understanding habitat for Bonneville cutthroat, one of the endemic species in Bear Lake, on one of the tributaries that we're going to be looking at. So we're glad for that. I asked Timothy if he'd be putting one in, and he did, and it was great. So we're glad to be able to help support this work and have them be a part of that. Julie Young, this is another one similar to Jared's, where you are all going to be getting to know Julie and her students. She has a class cohort grant, graduate students in science communication, who are going to be working to help facilitate some outreach materials, education materials to communicate findings from research projects that are in this cohort. And so we're really excited to see that. Wei Chong, Brennan Bean, again, and Grace Afram, I think I saw her come in, hello, and Cody Ratterman. They are working on improving Bear Lake water budget through better rain soil separation. That's understanding these hydrological simulations and doing some more computations, understanding how we can see temperature changes and forecasts in the future. So that's our 11 grants. I just want to say thank you to everyone who put in the time to put these proposals together. Thank you for all of you who are working on this very short time frame to get research results out on a legislature's timeline and schedule. We appreciate that. We know that this is real because we've been working with a number of people who are our problem solvers on the lake, and we're going to spend the last little bit of our program hearing from them. These are people who have been involved with Bear Lake for a number of years, who have been supportive of this program. So Director Brian Steed is going to be leading a panel for this program, and we just want to say, I just wanted to, before I sit down, just say thank you to both our external and internal partners. I hope this is just the beginning of some really great things that we're all going to do together.
Thanks, Anna, very much for that. I also wanted to take a point of personal privilege and just say thank you to all the people who are here and who are interested. When we put together the Institute of Land, Water, and Air, one of the things we were hoping to accomplish is to bring together a community of people, maybe from different backgrounds, maybe from different perspectives, but to talk about common interests and common problems. And that's why we're here today. And I also want to say a special thanks to Senator Wilson, whose work in the legislature made this all possible. Without him, we wouldn't be here today, and we wouldn't be getting the results that I think will inform all of us on how we manage the lake going forward. With that, I want to introduce a panel of experts. I'm going to bring up Mayor Mike Lenhart. Where you at, Mayor Mike? We're going to applaud. This is like Price is Right rules. Come on down. The Mayor of Garden City, and we're so happy to have him here. Obviously, as the Mayor of Garden City, there is no one more interested in the future of the Bear Lake because it just is what it is, right? It is what it is. Okay, happy to have you here. Next, we're going to bring down Ben Steierman. Ben? Yay, Ben! So Ben and I have worked together for a lot of years. He's the Deputy Director of Lands and Minerals at the Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. Right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Man. Ben, in some of his many things, is concerned with sovereign lands over, well, just so you know, the water of Bear Lake under the meander line is all, or sorry, the land under the high water mark is property of the state of Utah, and Forestry, Fire, and State Lands gets the privilege of managing that. So thanks for being here, Ben. Next on the list, Claudia Cottle. Come on down. So Claudia has been Claudia has been a longtime advocate and resident. She doesn't live in Utah, but we're not going to hold that against her right now. It's barely across the border in Fish Haven, but has been a very, very influential voice on the lake through her efforts on Bear Lake Watch. Thank you for being here. Next, Connolly Baldwin. Connolly. Woo. Connolly is a water resources engineer, works at Pacificor, and you're all wondering, well, what does that have to do with the Bear Lake? It turns out a whole bunch, because a lot of the water at Bear Lake is owned and managed by Pacificor, so we're really happy to have you here. And last but not least, Rowdy. So Rowdy's got the coolest name, Rowdy Jensen. He's the Sovereign Lands Coordinator for Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, and works particularly on Bear Lake issues. And so, despite having just the coolest name ever, has also become an expert. I do have we made an we made invitations to a variety of other individuals who are unable. I just want to let you know, the state park communicated their regrets. They do have a significant state interest on the lake, but unfortunately weren't able to attend today. And also, we know that there's a bunch of agricultural interests that are not represented on the panel, but just be aware they're out there and are quite important for the region. So, I was told we had 2 microphones, but I only see 1 microphone. And so what I'm going to do, watch this. I'm going to transition to my professor voice and have the questions asked loudly. So we're going to start with each of the panelists. And I would just ask you all, please I know I gave you a brief introduction, introduce yourselves, take 2 minutes to share what they wish everyone understood about the Bear Lake and the surrounding area. So Mayor Mike, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I've been the mayor, I'm going on my 2nd term. I've lived in Garden City almost 24 years. I grew up in Montpelier, which is just 30 miles to the north. I served on the city council for 10 years. Got off the city council for 6 years, and then I don't know what happened. Here
A series of terrible career choices. That's what I say.
Did not
Yeah.
go right, but I love Bear Lake. I love being a part of Bear Lake. Bear Lake, as you know, is growing, but I don't know how many of you, most of you probably got over Logan Canyon. As soon as you hit the top, you see that big, beautiful lake. There is no other place like it. Right? It is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. I've been to a lot of places, probably like you have. There's no place like Bear Lake. So I'm happy to be a part of Bear Lake. I'm a part of what's happening with Bear Lake. I'm happy to be here and visit about what's happening with the management of Bear Lake. So there you have it. Thank you.
Awesome. Ben.
Thank you. So my name is Ben Snyderman. As Brian said, I'm the Deputy Director at the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. And we manage sovereign lands for the state of Utah. So that includes the Utah portions of Bear Lake and Bear River, and then all of Great Salt Lake, Jordan River, Utah Lake, and portions of the Green and Colorado rivers. And I think what I wanted to explain is just why the state manages these sovereign lands. And it's based on the public trust doctrine that goes all the way back to ancient Roman law. It basically says that these waters were navigable at the time of statehood, and they're resources that belong to the people, much like the air that we breathe. So we manage these on behalf of all of you that are here in the room, and we take our fiduciary responsibility very seriously. So I just wanted to give you that context of why a forestry division manages a lake like Bear Lake.
Thanks, Ben. Claudia.
Good question. Claudia Cottle. I and my husband David, who's hiding in the middle of the room.
So, come on, David. Raise your hand.
Nobody asked me to do the talking, except he always says, take my answer first because it'll be shorter. He's always right. He and I have been working with Bear Lake Watch for over 20 years. It's become basically our 24/7 for 20 years little retirement job. But we're excited about it. He and his family are an integral part of Fish Haven and the community there. He grew up coming to Bear Lake every summer of his life, and I had opportunity to join in some of those summers, and so we've known each other a long time. We knew nothing about water rights. We just knew the lake was pretty little, we like to go there. So we've learned a lot in those years, and we've spent our time studying and learning, and we appreciate a lot of that education that came through our friends here at Utah State. And so it's been a fun, long ride of learning, and we're obviously not done yet, so we're excited about this. The thing that I kind of feel like the drive home message for us is what I want people to understand as you look and do your research is to fathom what Bear Lake was like, the native Bear Lake that we all discovered and we took over and became responsible for that station. And we've made many changes to that system, thanks to my friend over here, with the power company, but
Yeah, it wasn't you, Ben.
It's not his fault, it's his fault. We have a great group that we work with, and we've enjoyed the time working with the power company and the irrigators. And they've been able to make great use of the lake, and it's benefited our region. And my job is to keep anchoring us back to, okay, what was Bear Lake when we started? What are we doing to it? What could we do better? We're not going to quit doing it, so what we can do better, and to understand that native Bear Lake of what it was like when we found it, a special treasure. So, okay, Connie.
Thanks. A word to the wise, by the way, if you get invited to the Cottle's house, beware. I'm just saying, beware. I had occasion to go once. I thought it was a social call. We ended up in the basement. There was a whiteboard, and I don't know how many sticky notes. I'm sure. I'm sure it does. Be careful. There's a lot of sticky notes. Okay. Connolly.
Yeah, Connolly Waldman. I guess I can also say I'm an Aggie too, and got my bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering, and worked as a research engineer at the water lab for 5 years before taking this role where I've been in for 20 years, and just loved learning all about Bear Lake, and just it's so fascinating to study it. And after I got down to my 25th bullet point of the most important thing you should know about Bear Lake, it comes down to there's a very interesting little pamphlet that might seem superficial, but why is Bear Lake blue? And it was prompted by this huge research project that the United States Geological Survey undertook that really kind of, in my mind, was one of the first that I was aware of big research projects. And so it was kind of summarized in that booklet, and there's a ton of knowledge in there. And kind of the one thing out of that that really struck me was they did a 250,000-year-old core of the sediments of Bear Lake. And they were trying to focus on the paleoclimate, and that kind of failed, but they still came out with a lot of good information. And it was just interesting that the Bear River did not flow into Bear Lake for the last 10,000 years, but for the 250,000 years before that, about 5/6 of the time it did directly connect. So it was kind of very fascinating to me, because that was kind of I don't think that was not known before that time. So the research that you guys are doing will be very important, and I'm excited to see the results. And just wanted to pass along, there is much additional interest in Bear Lake, as you probably well know, but I often give tours of kind of the area and Bear Lake and our facilities there and our hydro plants downstream. You kind of usually give kind of once one year, but over the past 2 years I've given 6 to various state agencies in Utah and Idaho. And actually concurrently today, the Idaho Farm Bureau is actually touring, and so I have a colleague conduct that one tour, which is unique, that I'm usually the one giving those tours. And I guess one other kind of digging right into the gory detail that I think is important is sediment. I think all of us have seen the sediment swirl NASA image of the day picture. And when I first saw that, I said, well, that's not sediment. But if you go to the Oxford Dictionary, sediment is just a solid that settles to the bottom. But the second definition is erodible soils that have come off the landscape. So I kind of, obviously the sediment that was visible in that picture is calcium carbonate precipitating out of solution. And there is sediment that does enter Bear Lake that is kind of, I call it dirt sediment from the Bear River. But there's I think it's important to take those two into account. Now, even though they are both considered total suspended solids from a water quality perspective, I think it's important to recognize that little piece of minutia there. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Connolly. Appreciate it. Rowdy.
Hi, so I'm Rowdy Jensen. I'm the state summerland coordinator for Bear Lake and the Bear River as well. Our office is just actually right down the road. I'm pretty lucky. I was able to work at Bear Lake during my summers here while going in our school, so USU alum, and then I took a full-time position with the division and working specifically at Bear Lake on the Bear River, and it's been awesome. I've learned a ton. Being a local too, it's been really grateful to be a part of that. I think one of the things that I like to mention every once in a while is you're going to hear the word unique quite a bit when you're doing the research up here and you're talking with people that work at Bear Lake and they live at Bear Lake. And I think it's important to realize how multifaceted that uniqueness really is with Bear Lake. You have blue ribbon sport fishery, you have the amazing color blue that's always going to be mentioned, some really awesome recreational opportunities, and the list just keeps going. So the Bear Lake Valley and the Bear Lake itself are really special, and I'm super excited to see all this research and see all your guys' work and get to know you guys and be a part of the project. So thanks.
Thanks, Rowdy. We're going to start with you. That's all right. You got the mic already.
Let's do it.
It's all good. So what do you think makes I'm stuck on Great Salt Lake. I'm sorry. Sorry. What makes the Bear Lake unique and valuable? You said unique. Why do you think?
There's a whole list. Well, I guess turning it back to what I do, Bear Lake is managed to the public trust. And so that means it's managed to every aspect of the public, to the hunters, the fishers, the recreationists, the people that live on the beach, the people that are short-term visitors. It's every piece of our management framework takes into effect all those different aspects and all those different visitors, as well as the different relationships that they have with the lake. And so that's pretty special. It creates a challenge sometimes, as we'll see, but it's fun to work through that. It's fun to involve the different groups, like with the folks that we have up here, and be involved in that, and yeah.
Anyone else want to chime in on that?
Go for it.
Yeah, I would. So yeah, we had this ahead of time, so after agonizing, excruciating thoughts, I came down with everything about it. The natural lake with amazing blue water, but it also supports its nature as a storage reservoir. It also supports $230 million in annual crop value. So that was my insight.
Awesome. Huge. Thanks.
Make it real easy for you. It's the bees.
The
They're not the
bees.
fuzzy ones.
Okay.
It's blue, it's beachy, it's balanced, and it's beautiful. And I could go on about each one of those things, so
You
Ben.
said it. That's beautiful.
Let's go to the mayor. That'd be great.
I think, for the locals, just not only the beauty of it, but the serenity and the peacefulness that people have when they're in Bear Lake. We always hear it all the time how peaceful and what a special place it is because of Bear Lake. So for us as locals and for the visitors, just the peacefulness it brings when you're in Bear Lake. It's such a beautiful place.
Mayor, we're going to start with you with the next question. You've lived there for some years, and you were born in Montpelier, right? So you've lived in the area for much of your life. I'm curious, what's the biggest threat or challenge facing Bear Lake and the Bear Lake Valley today? What do you think?
Well, I think there's several, but I'll just pick out maybe just a couple that I think about all the time now as the mayor and as a resident over there is access to the lake, the beaches, right? Access to the lake is important so people can utilize that big, beautiful lake. And I think we have to keep that in mind as we develop and do things that we have to do what we can to make sure that those beaches stay open and are accessible to the public. The second thing is that we talk about all the time is that natural resource being not managed well, and I'll just say it because you brought it up, but we're losing our water to the Great Salt Lake. I mean, that's a great.
Those are fighting words, Mayor. Let's go.
That's a great resource for Bear Lake, and we don't want to lose it to somewhere else. And so we'll do everything we can to make sure that lake is protected.
Awesome. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Biggest threat
Yeah.
or challenge?
I'd like to just mention, I think that the fluctuating water levels of Bear Lake create quite the challenge. And so it does create a lot of different management issues. But along with that, it's also, we have a really large variety of stakeholders that have interest in Bear Lake. So we're managing for a huge tourism industry, we manage for water storage, we manage for the ecology and natural environment. And so trying to balance the needs of all the different stakeholders creates a paradigm that is difficult to manage.
Would I say something?
Sure, if you want to.
I think that specifically kind of goes back to what Con was saying, but in a nutshell is that it's P and N. Every bit of phosphorus and nitrates that we put into the lake stays in the lake. Don't think about that. We put a lot of water in, we take a lot of water out, but all of the pollution and the sediment stays. And so our challenge then as the society is, how do we mitigate for that? And how do we, we're pretty clever people and we can figure that out. So that's our threat and I think that's our challenge.
I think that climate change really is one of the major challenges, and maybe obvious, but I'm so glad to see the multiple research projects relating to that. And really the climate change comes down to reducing the inflow, since we do largely use barrier inflow to support the water levels, and also the irrigation stress, since the lake is used as a reservoir for irrigation. Increasing irrigation, depletions from kind of climate change and evaporation increases are really key to as an impact to Bear Lake under its management as a reservoir.
I don't have anything else to other than what Ben said. Ben took mine, so.
Sure. Let's go to Claudia. Claudia, if you had a magic wand to change one thing to improve the management of Bear Lake, what would it be and why? And Ben, you can't hit her, sorry.
My first thought about that was I would have 10 Annas and I would create 10 Brian's.
Oh,
Not Ben, I'm sorry. I would pick out one. Sorry, I just figured we had that. I just know that they do that. There are a lot of problems.
Sorry, Ben.
that was a real burden.
Sorry, I did that one, didn't I? Okay, what I would do with my magic wand is I would create a new set of laws that were written specifically for the lakes in Utah and Idaho, and I think that would make, that are specific to our lakes. Utah Lake is different, Great Salt Lake is very different, and I think we struggle with some really old laws and some really strange terminologies that are in there. And my senator, I think we should take that magic wand and fix those. And then again, it's kind of sad that we have to think that it'll be magic.
Easy, just get that done, all right?
All right, Ben.
That and remove Ben. I think you're
You can
set.
push me away.
So first we would blind Bear Lake watch off I actually, in all reality, we really like Bear Lake Watch. They've been more engaged than any other stakeholder group, and we really appreciate having folks that are calling issues up to the front of the room, being able to address them. So we actually really do enjoy Bear Lake Watch. But if I really was going to wave my magic wand, I would eradicate all the invasive species. I think that's a big challenge that we have, and that would be my wand wave.
Mayor, you've got a magic wand. What do you got?
It wouldn't be to wipe away Bear Lake Watch. I think for me is more dialogue with both Idaho and Utah with local officials to manage Bear Lake. I think the local elected officials, I think, play a big role in how it should be managed. I'd like to see Idaho and Utah actually maybe correspond a little bit better, and maybe, as Claudia said, write laws, because I don't think Idaho realizes that half of Bear Lake is in Idaho. And so it'd be nice if they would actually participate. Would you agree with that?
Yesterday.
They're getting there. They did tours.
They're coming around. They're coming around. The governor was actually, Idaho was in Montpelier, so he was a little closer to Bear Lake, but that would be my best.
Any other thoughts? No magic wand moments. Okay, that's fine. We'll go to Ben. Ben, looking ahead to the future of Bear Lake, are you optimistic or pessimistic, and why?
I'm incredibly optimistic. I think that all of this attention that we're receiving, even just this today, the research grants, we're here paying a lot of attention to Bear Lake. All of the sovereign lands that we manage actually have a lot of attention on them, and I think it's great because we're not going to make any changes or improve anything if we don't have engagement from folks like you.
Good. The rest of y'all. Rowdy. Oh,
I'm always
Claudia.
optimistic, and I'll pass this to Rowdy, but I'm optimistic for the same reasons, because you are all here. And we're all here working together, and that's the way we work on Bear.
Even though you're wishing Ben into non-existence.
I just didn't want tenants.
Okay, got it.
That's a lot of humans.
I'm optimistic because I see the dialogue has taken place, and hopefully we can leave a resource to my now almost 22 grandkids and great-grandkids, and for those yet to come. It's our responsibility to manage this, and this is the way to do that, is to communicate and do those things that we can help manage that resource.
Awesome. Connolly or Rowdy?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm optimistic as well. Really, frankly, because of all this research focus, that it can provide actionable information for us to kind of improve our management of Bear Lake.
Yeah, kind of just to reiterate a little bit what everybody else said, the attention that Bear Lake's getting this year with this program, and as well as with the new infrastructure going in at the lake in these coming years. I mean, we have a new marina going in, the continuation of the legacy bike path going around the lake, other various projects, and now this one. I mean, no offense, anything or anything like that, but last year was Great Salt Lake's year. This year, I think it's Bear Lake's year.
I've lost relevance so quickly here.
But yeah, I'm excited. I was lucky enough to be a part of the committee that ranked and awarded these projects, and I was blown away by the interest and how well these projects were put together. I think everybody in the entire group would say the same thing. We're really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Connolly, of the grants we've announced, you mentioned the grants, that you're happy about them. Are there any that you're particularly excited about, or you're ready to get the results of now?
Yeah, I'm going to have to pretend like you're all my children. We can't pick a favorite because really every single one of those I was like, thumbs up. So I'm really excited about every single project, and so just great to be here. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Any other answers to that question? Ben?
Well, I was, I can't lie and say that I was really excited about the submarine, and that was until I found out that it was too small for me to ride in it. So I had to bump that down to number 2, but I think the Eurasian Water Buffalo project rises to the top for me because that's something that I know Raddy's been working really hard on, and it has a lot of impact on the lake. I know Claudia that's probably going to be up there on the top for her as well, but that's going to be a big deal for us.
So too small to ride in? Is it too small to put like a dinosaur head on, like the Bear Lake monster? Or would that?
We're going to find out.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure.
I was going for the submarine too, because I actually have one myself, and so we can dueling submarines. Yes, I do have a submarine.
Okay.
You can't ride in those either.
No, it's very small.
Very small.
So we'll see how our submarines compare, but that's very exciting to go out there peeking under the lake, because apparently it's something we haven't done a lot in the past, and so it's a thing that needs to be done, so that's fun. And I was always excited to see it. I didn't realize that the cutthroat project, I think, and David and I spent a lot of time, especially David, on developing the cutthroat project on Fish Haven Creek, so that's really close, warm to our hearts. So, and I love all the rest. So I'm just glad you're all here and doing it.
Excellent. So let's actually go down to the mayor, because we're about to sum here, because I promised to have you all out early. Let's say in a minute 30 or less, you ready for this? What's your favorite moment on Bear Lake? You're already taking a minute and 30, come on.
Well, I have so many memories. The memories of memories of being with my kids on Bear Lake, and now the memories of being with my grandkids on Bear Lake. And I'm not a boater. I would go out to the beach. I've never been a boater. I like the mountains of Bear Lake. But just the memories of being out there with my kids and now my grandkids and enjoying that beauty that's out there. And maybe I don't know if it's a real fond memory, but I started jumping into Bear Lake in January. So there you go. If you haven't done it, give it a try, because it's a whole new experience.
Good. Yikes. Ben?
Mine's a conglomerate of memories as well. I've been going to Bear Lake for almost 40 years. I've done family reunions up in Logan Canyon, and then spending a day at Bear Lake with my family. So I love Bear Lake. I love joining everybody up there, and I hope that I can continue to bring my kids there in the future.
Claudia?
Okay, my favorite thing that I thought of was not my experience. It was actually Brian's.
Mine? Yikes.
Was it,
He
it
re-
wasn't the
he-
basement?
No, we created it in the basement. And visualizing him falling hands and knees into the muck, which is the technical term nowadays, with his nose, I think, not more than 5 or 6 inches.
That's a bit of an exaggeration, but it was close.
Now, please tell the story. But probably my most satisfying moment of dealing with Bear Lake was the day that, how did we get here? Governor Huntsman came out and shut down the whole idea of the pump storage project for Cook Canyon. And that was a big moment in my life. Thanks for Governor.
Awesome.
I'm
Conley?
always focused on the lake levels and very interested in those. So my moment was in 2017 when the lake came up almost 12 feet in 1 year, which was the record. So that was a pretty cool moment.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's one that I'll think of when I always think of Bear Lake. Growing up here in Logan, coming over that summit, everybody's done it. Everybody's seen that blue coming over the edge, and there's nothing like it in the world. So.
Love it. Okay, the true story of the muck. Well, I'll tell you later. How about this? If you want to hear the story of the muck, come find me. It's a great story. I didn't die. It was close. I had a teenage son who was there to rescue me, which was also nice. And the muck is real. Let's be very clear about that. I want to take a minute to say thank you so much to our panelists. Please join me in saying thanks to them. And I feel like how we started, we ought to have you bid on something at the end, not to exceed a value. Okay. To the researchers who are embarking on this, thank you so much for your interest. To the senator, again, who helped facilitate it, thank you so much for being awesome. To Anna, who has spent so much time, energy, and emotion on this project, and we're really looking forward to getting it underway and seeing results come forward. Thank you all for being interested and willing, and thank you so much for being here today. Please grab refreshments. They're there. I think we had bear claws, right? Bear claws, see? Oh, I know. That's Michelle. So thanks to Michelle for doing that, and to Thomas and Aaron, and to others who have helped. So thank you so much. Have a great day. Thanks.